Hello, alumni of Sacred Heart University and friends of the alumni. Welcome to Lunch with Bobby V, and I happen to be Bobby V. And I'm joined by three spectacular guests. We're going to talk about the situation that the university is dealing with right now, as the entire world is also dealing with. And with us is Mark Nofri, our head football coach, a two-time NEC champion, who is with us to share some of the thoughts of how he's progressing through this new world of information. Jessica Mannetti is with us, 7-year veteran head coach of our women's basketball team, who just ended her season on a 7-game winning streak. And Myles Runsdorf is here from beautiful sunny Florida, sports psychologist, who's going to add in because he's such a good friend of the Sacred Heart communities. Thank you all for being here, and thanks all the viewers for giving us some of your time. And let's just jump right into it, Mark and Jessica and Myles. I'm going to start with you, Jessica, if you don't mind, because it is the information age, and one of the things we try to do with our athletes is inform them of what's happening so that they understand what's happening. How are you progressing through this new world of information?
Well, I think it's been a really educational experience for us as a staff. You know, it puts us on their level in terms of the communication and information we get to have with them. We're finally on a platform that they really enjoy participating in. We do Zoom calls, which puts us face to face with our players. We have WhatsApp and group chats where they get to be a little bit goofy. So I think we've had a lot of fun being at a level where with technology, they're so used to having this type of communication, and we're able to just get information across. We're able to joke and have a good time with it in a really positive way that doesn't overwhelm them. It's not having to be on a phone with a coach for 25 minutes a day, right? It's just a quick text or quick Zoom call, checking in, saying hello. Everybody's been super positive since we've ended the season on such a good note. So for the coaches, it's been really educational for us in terms of how we communicate with them and how they respond. But it's been a pretty good experience overall so far with our players.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, we do try to inform, but we also try to instruct. And Mark, you have over 100 athletes that you and your coaches are trying to instruct, even though you're limited by the NC2A. How's it going in the world of the internet, instruction-wise?
It's frustrating, obviously. You got to look at it. Everybody's kind of in the same boat, and what we do is we try and meet with our kids every day by position. The position coaches are meeting with their guys about academics, staying on top of that. They meet with them in regards to, meeting times and football stuff related. They usually get a strength packet and a conditioning packet from our head strength coach, Chris Fee, every week. The coaches follow up with them and just kind of check in and ask them, what they've been able to do, how they're progressing in the weight areas and, the conditioning piece. But, you sit here as a head coach and you think about, how can I gain an edge or how could I get a jump on this and try and make my team better when we're all kind of sitting in the same boat and there really isn't much you can do and what the NCAA limits you to do and, the government and keeping everybody, with the social distancing. So our kids are as positive as they can be right now. I know they're all itching to get back here. They missed out on spring ball, which was pretty much half of March and most of April. And we don't know what's in store for the summer workouts. So I know our kids we encourage them to talk to each other, not just their position group, but try and, converse with other kids on the team at different positions on both sides of the ball and speak to the coaches on a different coach on a daily basis and just try and keep everybody informed of what they're doing and try and stay in touch because to me, I think one of the biggest things you build in the offseason is chemistry and, leadership. And those are things that put us over the top a few years ago. And it's hard to do in this time, when everybody's at home. But we're trying to do the best we can. And the coaches are doing a great job staying in touch with the guys. And when I talk to them, they seem positive.
And the NC2A has limited the amount of time you can actually instruct your athletes. And that's so there's no competitive edge at this time during this pandemic situation. And Myles, information and instruction are two of the keys that we deal with. But the other thing our coaches are dealing with daily is the inspiring of the players and how they can communicate to make them as good as they could possibly be. How do you see this new world and inspiration coming together?
Like Coach Mannetti said, it adds a sense of comfort because you're using the platform that these younger people are so accustomed that they grow up with. So like I said, it adds a sense of comfort that you're in it with them. You understand what they're going through and that you're there for them. It kind of provides them with a little bit of a sense of security that, okay, I'm not alone in this. And, we'll all get through this. And the other thing is that, and Coach Nofri said about the chemistry that it builds, and it's uncharted waters. We've never done this like this before. But again, these youth are so used to communicating via online platforms. It will actually, I think, bring them even closer together. They're almost forced to be close together. They have to communicate in different ways. And I think that allows them to just get to know each other, their tendencies, just on a higher level. And again, like I said before, it just helps everybody understand that we're in this together and that we can help each other out as needed.
I love that. And, you talked about uncharted waters. You have to have courage when you're in those big waves. And Jessica, I know your idea of teaching courage comes from the repetitions and practice, that it builds courage or it builds confidence. How are you building some of that courage now as you're dealing with your players?
Well, that's a great question, Bobby. I think we're all trying to stay strong and stay together. I think they lean on each other a lot in terms of being courageous. They do it on the court, they do it off the court, and I think they do it in times like this. We really preach a lot about our values, about family and faith, and really staying together during these times of uncertainty and staying positive. I think courage goes hand in hand with positivity, right? Like if you believe you can do something, you're going to have no doubt in your mind that you're capable of it. You're going to continue to work hard for it. So I think the things that we preach on the court have great transition over to real life, especially in a time like this, where they've been through adversity before. Maybe not like this, but adversity's hit them. How do we handle it? How do we bounce back from failure? All these things that we test throughout the season, they get to put into effect now more mentally than anything, but they have a great support system in each other and in their families to be able to be strong and push through times like these.
Spectacular, Jess. And Mark, that's exactly what you teach on a daily basis, that idea of getting up off the floor, of dealing with failure, of combating fear when they're out there on the field. How are you trying to translate all of those ideas over the internet?
Coach Fee does a great job making sure our guys get their workouts in weekly and what they're looking for. And, we talk about it all the time. The easiest thing to do when no one's watching is take some time off, or maybe not push yourself as hard as you would normally do it. And I think us as coaches checking with our kids and having them talk to each other and maybe tell them what they did as a workout today. And, we have to build some type of trust with our players. And if you trust them to do the right thing when no one's around and no one's looking and to put in the extra effort, it's going to show when they come back here. Right now we're supposed to start camp August 7th. And I talked to the kids. I don't know if there's going to be a gathering this summer where we're summer lifting and conditioning is going on. So the next time we see them may not be till, the day we move in, August 7th for camp. And we tested these kids when they left in beginning of March and kind of saw where they were with the strength and conditioning. And when they come back, we'll test them again. And, those stats aren't going to lie. Like if you stayed the same or went down from where you were in March, it tells a big tale of what you did over the past 4 months when you were by yourself. Like it's easy to push somebody and to do things together in big groups when your teammates are with you and encouraging you and coaches are right there with you. But when you're by yourself in this time and doing things differently, like you said, it's a whole new world of doing it. These guys got to understand that August 7th rolls around, you better be in the best physical shape possible and be ready to grind, because we got a game to open up on September 5th, and We don't have time to sit around and wait and get in shape and build your strength back up. That stuff should have been done, when you left here in March to when you report again.
I love the word trust, Mark. You know, Jessica knows, Myles knows. We all know that all wins are based on trust and teamwork. I managed in Japan, and they are a very symbolic little country. And one of the things that they do is at the end of the season, they take the championship manager and the entire team hoists him in the air. And then they catch him and they hoist him again and they catch him. And then they hoist him again and they catch him. And the symbolism of that entire process is that during the year, the players must trust the manager. And then there must be teamwork to win. And at the end of the year with the championship, the manager must trust the team because he's about 10 feet up in the air and there's teamwork to catch and throw. And Myles, as we deal with uncertainty, that one of the things that creeps into everyone's life is that fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. How do you think the coaches can build more trust to eliminate some of the uncertainty going forward?
In terms of the uncertainty, we tend to suffer from what's called brain chatter. When we sit idly by ourselves, we're not structured in what our normal routine is. Doubts start creeping in, anxieties, worry about our position in terms of where are we going to be on the team. And you guys mentioned before about the resiliency needed to withstand all kinds of adversity, whether it's physical adversity, emotional adversity, financial adversity. You have to find a way to dig deep and to just push through the difficult times. And we talked about trust and confidence and whatnot. It really comes down to who wants it the most. Who's really going to put the time in? Who is not going to lie to themselves? The coaches will know as soon as they get back to campus who worked out, who trained. Okay, it's up to you to be your own coach right now. And in terms of the opportunity to become more even disciplined as a young adult right now, this speaks volumes for how you can progress throughout life. You're going to be learning life skills now that you never had an opportunity to learn before because it's all on you and on your shoulders right now. If you want it, you got to go out and take it. You got to put in the time and just trust the process because it will work if you follow the plan.
Oh, I love the idea of the plan. Yeah, Jess, the plan. The plan is knowing where you are and knowing where you want to go. And then the plan is how you're going to get there. And then in this disruptive situation that we're dealing with, we as coaches and we as leaders have to pivot. We have to change our strategy to get to where we're going. And how is it that now you're adjusting to this new world to change your plan that you've had over the last 7 years to accommodate this 8th year of challenge?
Well, I think for us, and I think plans, you have to be adaptable as a coach, right? Like you can have this big game plan with this big goal and big visions, but unless you've experienced everything there is to experience, you have to have a plan B and a plan C. It's like things happen in games, right? They go wrong. Your game plan doesn't work. You have to have a plan B and a plan C. So I think adaptability has been really big. Our coaching staff has done a really good job of trying to find ways to still be able to have an ability to reach our goals, but just change the way we get there. And, our players too, they're pretty overwhelmed right now with being online and taking all these classes and they have to be almost self-taught. They have a responsibility to do a lot of work. There's a lot of content, especially our freshmen. They're really overwhelmed. And we talk about setting short-term goals, right? The mountain in front of you always looks really big to climb. And when you think about it, you tend to get really overwhelmed. But whether we're approaching the upcoming season or they're approaching their classes, we have to have more short-term goals that give us a little bit more of a reward. Like, hey, let's reach this short-term goal. Let's work 35 minutes towards this class or this paper today. And then let's take a 10-minute break and reward ourselves a little bit, like hop onto TikTok or do a little dance or, do something fun that really takes your mind off of the pressure that you feel. So I think from a coaching perspective, from a player perspective, we all have to be a little bit flexible. We all have to have a plan B or a plan C as we move into this new norm, because things aren't going to go back to the way they were. Let's be honest. There's always going to be the experience that we go through that gives us a different perspective. So as much as we might want to say, well, things are going to return to normal, well, it's going to be a new normal. We have to adapt to that. We can't fight that or resist that. We have to be able to really evolve with what's going on and then find a new way to continue to be successful within this new norm that we're living in.
Exactly. So, Mark, leaders have certain qualities, and you're a great leader and probably the greatest leader that any of us on this call have ever come in contact with is Jesus, huh? And Jesus led people into a new world, and he did it with disciples. You have the most coaches of any of our Division I teams who all have to be your disciples. They have to spread your word throughout the congregation. How is it that you're communicating with your coaches?
Right now, we we have a group chat, a text group chat that we pretty much connect every day, more than once. I would say we're probably 5 or 6 times a day on that. There's usually at least 8 to 12 emails amongst the group each day. I try and reach out and speak to the coaches every day, if not every other day, on the phone individually to check on them. And, like you said, the big thing with the trust. And, I feel that I got a great staff behind me. I got a great staff that works together. They all get along very well. We have disagreements like every staff does in a staff room, but when we leave that room, everybody's on the same page and they're going to preach the same thing. And I think what you talked about earlier with the trust, I got to trust my staff that they're doing their job. I got to trust my staff that they're relaying the information to the coaches or to the players that we want relayed. And, when you're all working towards the same goal, and they're all doing the same thing, it makes it a lot easier as the head guy to make sure that trust is there and you're going to be successful. And I believe in my coaches. I believe in my players. I think something, we were talking about yesterday with the leadership group. We have 6 kids that we nominated as leaders back in January that are kind of taking the ball right now. They reach out to me more than I reach out to them saying, hey, Coach, what do you think of this? Hey, Coach, could I get the information on the incoming kids? Can I get the information of the whole team? Because I want to reach out to them myself. So when you got good leaders in terms of the coaches, then it trickles down to the upperclassmen and maybe some of the underclassmen that are good leaders and believing in what we're preaching and saying, and they're doing the same thing. Like, when you get that locker room all on the same page, it makes things a lot easier. And, when you become a team, you can become a championship team.
I love that, Mark. It brings me back to when I was 35 years old. I was a manager in Texas for my first year. I was sitting in my office in the afternoon, and there was a knock on the door, and in walked a football coach. His name was Tom Landry. You know him real well. And at the time, he was the dean of all coaches. And he was gracing my place with his presence because he had played with the New York Giants with Andy Robustelli, who happened to be from my hometown, or I was from Andy's hometown. And he came in and chatted with me for about an hour. And as he was leaving, he took his hat and he put on his hat and he looked over his shoulder as I was sitting at my desk. And he said, can I give you a little advice as you move into this managerial world? And I said, sure, Tom, anything. He said, make sure your coaches speak your language. And that's exactly what you're saying there, that everyone gets on the same page. Myles, how important is that when you're trying to get people to get to the unknown, to get to that place of promise that you're not really sure of how to define it, that they're going there on faith?
It comes down to, and we mentioned this word before, a shared goal. What is the ultimate goal? Obviously, when it's in sports, athletics, especially college athletics, it's to compete at a high level and to be victorious. We all want to win. We all want to go to the championship games. It feels great to win. In terms of what you can do, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. In terms of the goals, we all, though, have our own individual responsibility, our own personal short-term goals, our own individual intermediate goals, our own long-term goals. However, like you guys said before, if you're not all on the same page with what your individual goals are, it doesn't matter what your whole team goal is. If you're going down the same road, you'll get there. Okay, and communication, again, online communication helps keep you all focused where you're going. Some people might want to get stronger and faster and a better eye coordination, but again, the purpose is all the same. Where do we want to go? We want to be a victorious team that comes together in the end and does really, really well.
Thanks a lot. Hey, Jess, you know what a lot of people are dealing with right now? Obviously, you read about the unemployment lines, you read about the business failures, all of the adversity that people are trying to overcome right now. As a coach, you deal with a lot of adversity, and this year in particular, you probably had as much adversity as any team I ever experienced. And you overcame it in such a spectacular way, having your team come together after you had a star player transfer, you went through injury after injury, you played with a 7-women team at some time when you're competing against 14 on the other side, and yet you finished strong, got to the tournament for the 7th consecutive year, and finished on a 7-game winning streak. Overcoming adversity is a challenge to all coaches, isn't it?
It's a huge challenge, and you're right. This is the most adversity I've ever been experiencing as a head coach since I've been here with you 7 years, and it was a really big learning process for me to go through too, because nobody likes to fail. Nobody likes to have all their hard work and efforts not come to fruition at the end of the day. And what I kept saying to the team, and I think what they eventually believed, was we're stronger than we think, right? We have to trust and believe in our process, the process you guys talked about earlier. And it's easy. It's always easy to quit. It's always easy when you're failing to take that road that is the path of least resistance. But you have to be able, in those hard moments, to push through and to be a little mentally tough. And I think people today are going through really big adversities, right? This isn't an adversity where we've gone on we've let an 8-0 run happen and we have to battle back. Like, putting everything into perspective, that's kind of nothing compared to what real life is happening in people's lives right now, losing jobs, not being able to support their families, worrying about rent. Like these are real life problems that affect people. But practicing these adversities helps you to become a little bit more mentally tough, realizing that, hey, you have to step out of your comfort zone. You are stronger than you think. You have battled through this before. Stay positive. There is going to be some light at the end of the tunnel. Don't bail on your process. I think a lot of people, when the going gets tough, change the plan. You don't have, if you trust and believe in what you're doing and that's going to be successful, I think you stick it out and you say, look, there's going to be a hard road. There's a speed bump, but it's not a wall. We're going to get through it. We're going to get past it. We're going to stay positive. Whether you're doing it with a team or you're doing it alone, you've been put in positions throughout your life to practice those moments for times like these. So battling through the adversity, staying positive, knowing, hey, my process is good. I have value. I work really hard. I will get my job back. I'll get a better opportunity once things settle down a bit. I'll survive. And we all have to have this great mentality of, hey, I'm going to survive. There's no option in not surviving here. I'm going to survive. I'm going to do it the best way I can. I'm going to stay the course and trust the process. We'll figure it out. And so holding on to that hope a little bit, I think, has been a really big focus point of how people have been able to move forward in a positive way.
Oh, I love it. And, Mark, moving forward, your program is one of our most structured programs. And your program is built on your values and your vision. Why don't you tell the alumni about some of the values that you try to incorporate into your program to get your group to where you want them to go?
That's a great question. And some of the things that we talk about, and it's on each of the coaches' offices, we talk about what type of kid we're looking to bring into the program. My thing is I refer to kids as grinders. You can go back to 2013 and 14 when we won some championships back then, and again in 18 we won it. And we may have not been the most talented team out there. Not to say we didn't have great players, because we did, but I had kids that were tough, hard-nosed kids. They bought into the system. They bought into what you're preaching. And they came together as a group. And, the first thing that my coaches do when they go to find kids to bring to our program is we want kids that are hard-nosed, tough kids, but we want kids that love the game of football. They don't play the game because it's nice and, they get to wear their jersey and it's cool to say you're on a football team. We want kids, and we refer to them as football junkies, guys that like to watch tape, guys that like to be around the coaches, guys that like to, go out on the field on their own time and do stuff like that. So we want, football-related, football junkie type kids. We want kids that are hard-nosed and tough. And most importantly, we want good character people. I tell kids all the time, listen, I'm not interested in taking the best kid talent-wise if it's going to be a problem and he's not going to fit into who we are, who Sacred Heart is and what we are and what we've created here and the culture that, the teams in the past have built. I think that we've done a great job as a coaching staff and the teams that we've had since 2013. They've created a great mentality and a great culture here of being tough kids that grind, that find a way to get it done. I may take a kid that's a step too slow, an inch too short, but I know in the fourth quarter, I'm going to be able to rely on that because he's resilient and he's tough and he's hard-nosed, he's been coached, and he loves the game of football and loves his teammates. And that's what we preach, and my coaches have preached it. They've done a phenomenal job finding the right kid. I think that's part of the success that we've had is we brought in the right type of kid for our culture and what we've built here, and the coaches have done a great job finding those kids.
Thanks, Mark. That's great. And Myles, as you're dealing with culture within a team environment, how important is culture?
It's incredibly important. You have to look at it as if it's a family, and that you are there. And you basically are a family if you think about it. You're in a locker room together all the time. You travel together all the time when you're together. But still now you're just distant family members. So the culture, it's all family oriented. How do we stay close? How do we stay on target? Well, we work together as a family. A lot of schools talk about their family atmosphere, and the ones that really have it, they'll take all the right character players. Like you're talking about Coach Nofri, he might be shorter or small, but if he's got the right character, if he understands that he's part of a team, that they have a shared goal, the culture will be, it'll be inbred in them. It'll be part of who they are. And again, I said it before, it's who they'll be going forward, and it helps foster success every step of the way, even after their athletic lives are over.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. You have a family atmosphere on your team, and all families have to deal with tough love, not only giving love. And you deal with reprimand and you deal with reward. How is it that you deal with reprimand? Is it in public, in private? Is it with the group? Is it with just one of your coaches? But reprimand is definitely one of the facets of a family.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's funny that you asked that. We were actually having a leadership meeting last night on FaceTime with a couple players who we want to position to be in a leadership role next year. And we were talking about how we want to develop them as leaders and how we have to be able to put them in positions to have the hard conversations. I think the first way you're ever able to have a hard conversation is to have a relationship first, right? People are going to be able to respond to a little bit of criticism if they know you believe in them, if they know you love them, if you have this mutual respect for each other. So I think building the foundations of communication first is really, really important. And then you can kind of break down from those more critical standpoints, those moments of adversity. And I talked about with them how you grow as a leader. Early in your career, you're not always comfortable having those hard conversations, addressing in that moment this kid that might be having bad body language or responding in a way that is not your standard. And as you get a little bit more experienced in the process, it's like second nature to you. You better wipe that look off your face real quick or the whole team's going to have a consequence, right? Like it's just those moments of realizing that the standard of the team has to be the primary objective of what you're being consistent with. And then if someone is above that standard, it's about the praise, the recognition that, hey, we're so proud of you for making sure that our standard is here and always higher. And in those moments of adversity or ways that they're battling in their head sometimes, you have to be able to call them out on it. You have to be able to not be the nice guy and know that they have enough respect for you and you have enough respect for them to address it, keep it moving, fix it, and then just know that the standard always has to be upheld. And you ask them that too at the beginning of the season. I think you say, hey, X, Y, and Z is what you want to be held accountable for. Are you going to be able to be held accountable in those moments when you're going through it and respond in a way that we need you to respond, because it's going to make the team better? And if you get everybody locked in and committed to those pieces of understanding the standard, buying into the standard, you're going to have a team that then holds each other accountable. You're not going to have to do as much disciplining in those moments because the expectations are just going to be from upperclassmen to underclassmen. Hey, this is not what we're about. This is not what we do. This is the standard that we uphold. So I think making sure everybody's buying into that standard, being able to have the hard conversations in those moments, experience helps, but have the hard conversation. It's going to help, and it's going to be in the best interest of your team in the long run, and the whole team will respect you for it rather than letting it go.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Mark, we all know at Sacred Heart University that the student athlete doesn't really care what we know until they know that we care. And you have so many athletes on your team, student athletes from all walks of life. How is it that you and your staff demonstrate that you truly care about the student athlete?
Mike, again, it goes back to creating the relationships. With that many kids, you have to be able to talk to both sides of the ball, and coaches mingle with, kids not just in their position, not just on defense or offense, but with the whole team. And I think also having your student athletes see you as not just a coach, but a human being. I have coaches that are fathers, that are, it just, you have to let them see you outside the coaching aspect too. I think sometimes, like Jess says, it's hard sometimes to have those difficult conversations, but that's why you're the leader. The guy in charge, that's probably the worst part of your job, is having those difficult conversations. But when you have a relationship, or you have a good relationship, let's say you don't know a kid very well and he's new to your program, and you have to have a difficult conversation with him because of something that he's not doing. I think you need to bring him in and talk to him one-on-one. And then after you spoke to him about what he was doing or what he was not doing, you need to talk to him again about, hey, how's it going? Did you, what's going on at home? How's school going? Do you like your roommate? You have to show them that you're not just here as a football coach, but you're here as a person, and that you have a family, and that you have kids. And, these guys sometimes, I think, forget that we were all in their position at one time too, and to develop a relationship with these guys, it may have been longer for some of us, but we all went through college, and we all played sports, and maybe it was years ago, but they need to understand that we too are not just coaches, we're human beings, and there is a personal, human touch to it. And getting to know your guys, like I said, with 120 something kids on the team, you don't know everybody as well. But as the years go on, from your freshman year to your senior year, you'd be surprised how close coaches come to some of these kids, whether it's right away, second year. You try and find something out about them, or an interest between you and that player, and keep talking to that player and create a bond. By the time they leave here, they're hugging you on senior day saying, thanks for the last 4 years, coach. I appreciate everything you did. And maybe your freshman year, I didn't understand, but my God, my senior year, I get where you were coming from.
That's great, Mark. And I see how your players react, and you do a great job at that. Matter of fact, all of our coaches do. And Myles, when part of our policy is, that reprimand is in private and rewards are in public. We want the whole world to know when players are doing the right thing, and we want the player to know when they're doing the wrong thing. How do you think that inspires the athlete one way or the other?
It comes back to what I said earlier. If you're a coach and you have to reprimand your players, it happens. Kids forget, they get lackadaisical, they don't hustle as much. maybe they don't put enough time in the weight room and whatnot. Let's say you take them aside and you tell them, talk to them what's going on. It's like a parent role. I remember when my father used to discipline me, he'd say things like, this hurts me more than it hurts you. And as a kid, I didn't understand that. But as an adult, as a parent, I understand that. And the coaches are in that position where we comfort and love our players, but we also need to know that there's a fine line that they cannot cross. And if they do cross, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be benched. You're going to have this, that. But I believe that you do it in private because you don't want to embarrass anybody. You want to help people feel good about themselves. You do it in a way where you promote positivity and the fostering of growth and development as a person, as a player, as a teammate. So in terms of what we're talking about, again, the coach is like the parent figure. We provide both discipline and guidance. And, hopefully, like I said before, that trust is there that no matter what happens, we'll all ultimately be on the same page later on.
Thank you. Indeed, that's true. And Jess, one of the things we haven't spoken much on is the academic development of our athletes. And just to shift gears a little here, maybe you could tell some of the alumni and the viewers out there how we're connecting with Tammy in our academic development department.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I give huge props to our student athlete support services. They have not missed a beat when it comes to this transition from in class and on campus to online. Tammy is on it. Kelsey is on it. They do such a tremendous job being this unbelievable support system for our student athletes. They still have weekly meetings with our students. Anybody that is having an academic issue, they are accessible. They are helping them set up tutors or office hours with the professors. They really have not missed a beat. And so the academic standard has stayed the same. We're not changing the academic standard or expectations. The support system is still in place. I think the coaches do a great job. We check in with our position players academically, probably once or twice a week to make sure they have everything they need. Tammy is there. Kelsey is checking in with her teams. I think academically, Sacred Heart has done a tremendous job within our athletics program of just providing an unbelievable platform for these student athletes to not fall through a crack, regardless of a pandemic that's happening or not. There's been a tremendous support system and plan in place, and they've adapted very quickly. We talk about adaptability. It was like, boom, 2 days after the pandemic, this is the academic plan moving forward. Registration went through without a hitch. We have no problem getting kids registered and on time for next semester planning. So everything's been great. I have nothing but great things to say about our academic resources and Tammy and Kelsey and our support services here.
And I like to brag on the department too. And Mark, I'm going to give you a chance to tell our alumni and those viewers just what a spectacular job Meg Miller has done in being my deputy and giving all the coaches the information that they need from the conference, from the NC2A, in all the changing rules, regulations, and compliance situations that we're dealing with, as well as the way our university is going about retention and admission.
Yeah, Meg's phenomenal. She's been great. I usually touch base with her every night about 5:30, 6 o'clock, just to kind of go over everything that I'm doing here and staying on the same page. I know she's kind of taking it and run with it during this time. And every night, we get an email from Meg as an athletic department, every coach and every administrator in the athletics about the daily update of what goes on, what's available to us, what's available to our student athletes, reminders. That stuff, it goes a long way, and Meg's right on top of it. And I agree with Jess. I think our university's done a phenomenal job handling the situation, the adversity they were faced. Like you said, those people upstairs, Tammy and Kelsey, haven't missed a beat. Our kids are doing their academic meetings, same thing online. And like I said, everybody's kind of working together, but Meg Miller's kind of holding everybody together administratively with the reminders and the updates. And then I guess that's all you can do right now. It's better to have more information and be updated on a daily basis than go days without knowing anything. And I think you guys upstairs have done a great job with that. And I think that's one of the successes and one of the reasons that makes Sacred Heart so special is, people ask me, why you been there so long and why have you been there for 27 years? And my answer to them all the time, it's the people I come in contact with and the people I work with every single day.
You've been here 27 years, Mark. Think about that. You have gray hair now. I remember you when you had dark hair. Oh, I kind of remember me when I had dark hair too, kind of. Yeah. Well, that's how the department is working, academically, how we're working with our student athletes. Probably one of the biggest challenges we're having right now is the idea of how we recruit new players, because no one's on the road. No one's coming and having their official visits. And Jess, I know that your squad is, a smaller squad, and you're way out in front of it. But maybe you could express some of the recruiting challenges that all universities are going through right now.
Yeah, I would love to. So from a recruiting standpoint, we're a little bit of in a new. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I thought you lost me for a sec. From a recruiting standpoint, we are actually in a new norm. We are really trying to figure out how to navigate recruiting without evaluating, without visiting, without just being able to be accessible to these kids. We want to show them campus. We want to have them come on campus, see their body language when they're on campus, interact, look them in the eye, tell them we want them to be a pioneer. So I think from a recruiting standpoint, we're accessing the portal a lot, this new recruiting portal that has been a really great resource for us. But from this class looking forward, man, it's really challenging to not be able to recruit from the place where you can physically see a kid play. It's going to be a lot of knowing what you need to know in terms of what you're looking for and how you can envision them in 2 years when they get here. So definitely a new challenge to try and overcome. But, a lot of people are sending a ton of information. And so because they're sending a ton of information, we're able to really get a lot of film and video and start our evaluation process that way. But definitely different moving forward. I think we're certainly going to have to figure it out because it's not stopping. So the recruiting never stops.
Yeah, and Mark, we do a great job at retention of having students come to our school and staying in our school. But now with the NC2A changing some of the policies, we find that, in all sports, probably moving forward, a student athlete is going to be able to leave one time during their 4 years that they're at the university and not be penalized when they go to another university. I know you've dealt with that in the past, but now in the changing world, how will all of our teams adjust and adapt to that new world?
That's difficult because, all of a sudden you have a student athlete that you've had for 2 years and you've built a program and you've had a lot of success with that student athlete. And then all of a sudden he's given the opportunity to leave without sitting a year, and he's going into his junior year or maybe his senior year. That kind of throws a wrench in everything that you're trying to do. I mean, you're trying to build a program, and you're bringing in a freshman class thinking that, hey, these guys are going to be pretty good down the road, and you're looking forward to their junior, senior year where they're developing with our strength and conditioning coach for 2 years, and they've had some success as a freshman, sophomore, and all of a sudden they want to leave and go somewhere else. That's going to be tough. It's a difficult situation, and us as coaches, I think you have to show them and teach the student athletes that are in your program, about some loyalty. Listen, I recruited you. I gave you the opportunity to come here and make your mark, and we love you. And then the things that we provide that student athlete, make him understand that this is a special place, and you can do great things here and make a name for yourself at Sacred Heart University. You don't need to be at another school or a bigger institution. I mean, we're doing just fine here. We have a lot of great players that have come through here. Obviously, every school's faced the fact that some of their kids have left or transferred. Same here. We've had kids transfer. And sometimes, you know, you don't want that kid to transfer, and you're trying to teach them the fact that if you stay at Sacred Heart, it's still just as good, and you're going to be a great player and make a name for yourself here. I mean, that's one of the things and the challenges of keeping your kids in the program and understanding that, hey, we have a special place, and it is a special institution based on what we do for our student athletes on and off the field, upstairs academically, all the things we talk about. We have to show them and teach them and school them up on, this is a great place, and this place has been meant for you. Now, you know what I mean? We took a shot on you. We brought you into our family. Let's finish the 4 years before you leave, and leave here with a great taste and a great experience.
Yeah, you know, Jessica, it is so tough to teach everyone that you recruit. It's so tough to ask an 18-year-old to make a decision that's going to be a decision that will affect their life going forward. And sometimes it just isn't the perfect fit. And the right thing for the individual is to allow them to go somewhere else where they might feel the grass is greener, where they might feel it's a better fit. You've had a little firsthand experience with that, and so has our men's basketball team. You want to relate?
Yeah, so I talk to a lot of recruits that will come in my office, current players that will come in my office and just say, hey, coach, this wasn't the experience I was looking for. You know what? You only get 1 4-year experience, right? So they're not lucky like coaches. We get to have, if I think about how many seasons I've coached or been a player, like, you know, it's probably been close to 20 now. So I get to have 20 seasons. I get to have more seasons after this in terms of my experience and love of basketball. They only get 4 years. 95% of these kids will only play basketball for 4 years in college and not play thereafter. So if it's not what you're looking for the right reasons, then I wish you all the best. I'll help you in your process. You know, you're not just a cog in a wheel here. We've established a relationship with you. We've hoped to try and coach you to help you reach your goals academically, athletically. If you're not feeling like you could be 2 feet in, then it's not the right place. Then you should go somewhere where you really feel like you're 2 feet in, and we'll wish you the best and we'll help you through it. You know, if you want to leave because it's hard, I would probably encourage you to stay another year. Hey, try it out, stay another year. I know it's hard, but you're stronger than that. We can help you get through that. But if it's not the experience, the environment, you're not connecting in the way you wanted to, it's totally understandable. You know, some coaches get really mad about it and they act crazy. I've learned in the process, look, like I need you to be 2 feet in here and you need to buy into what we're trying to do. You need to create relationships with your teammates. You need to be committed to our standards. If you're not willing to do that, I'm not going to keep you here. That's not going to help our team be the best it could be. So hopefully we'll help you find a place where you can feel that way about your new team and you can have the experience you're looking for in the same way.
Myles, it's very important for a coach to take the individual's personal feelings into consideration, even sometimes above the team, isn't it?
Well, of course. And like Coach Mannetti just said, if the person doesn't feel it's the right fit for them, you only have one life, and you want to make sure you do it right. You can learn from mistakes. If it's not the right relationship with you and the coaches, you absolutely owe it to yourself to talk to them and say, you know, how can we make this better here, or do I need to find what I'm looking for someplace else? Of course, you absolutely have to include your players' feelings. Otherwise, you won't get the best out of them. And you want people who are committed, who feel like they belong. And if they don't feel that way, you're not going to get the best out of them, and the whole team is going to suffer. It'll be the weakest link in the chain.
Mark, commitment is such a big part of the game. Lack of commitment can destroy a group. All-in commitment can lift groups to higher levels. Isn't that the experience that you've had?
Absolutely. You know, we talk about the same thing. You know, when your leaders on your team are holding the kids accountable, it makes your job a lot easier. And I think, puts you over the top in terms of if everybody's saying the same thing and their commitment level is the same. Obviously, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And we talk to our kids about that all the time. Like, commitment is not easy. You know, the running, the lifting, the summer camp, you know, spring ball, those things aren't easy, especially in the wintertime when you're up at 6 a.m. outside in the middle of January walking to the pit center. That's not for everyone. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So your commitment level into how far are you committed and how much are you committed shows your true character and how you feel about football and how you feel about this team and how you feel about your teammates. And to us, we've had great luck and great success the last few years, and our commitment level has been high, and that's why you've had winning seasons. And if your commitment level isn't there, that's when you have to start looking at the type of kid that you're bringing into the program, how many of those kids and what they're doing to the rest of the team. I think a big thing is how strong your locker room is and your leadership. Are they all in? Are they fully committed? If they are, and the young kids are just, young and don't understand yet, and they're able to open up and come along with the upperclassmen, and the upperclassmen bring their commitment level up, that's a great thing. That shows leadership, and it shows that you picked the right kids for your program.
Well, team, I'm going to tell you, we touched on so many subjects of from commitment and values and determination and getting up off the floor and reprimand and reward. And you all should be rewarded for everything that you do to try to make the world better and to make your teams better. I know at Sacred Heart University, our values and our visions are those values that are going to help all of our student athletes today and our alumni who might be watching right now get through this very difficult situation that we're dealing with. We will get through it. We will survive. I believe we're going to be stronger, and I know we're going to be different. And what we must remember is that different isn't bad. Different is just that it's going to be something other than what we're used to, and it's going to be the world that we're going to learn to live in, because athletes and leaders understand how to adapt, adjust, cope, and succeed. And you both, Jessica and Mark and Myles, in your work, you're helping all of those people you come in contact understand those values. I thank you for what you do. Thanks for giving us an hour of your time today. And all I could say is, let's go Pios. We're gonna be one of the top universities in this universe before it's all over. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby. Thank you for your leadership.
Thanks for your time.